Hey y'all, it's week 30 of season 3 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Dogs, Dogs, Dogs. Barney, what's up this week?
Andy wakes up Otis in the jail cell, and then he clings in an extra big breakfast. And then I cling in the nail, and I open an envelope from the state capitol. It's their answer to our request for extra funds. They say our application for extra funds is being considered, and they're going to send down an investigator to make a final decision. And then I argue with Otis. He says he doesn't see what we need extra money for around here. And I say plenty. You, for one thing. I don't know why Aunt Bee has to fix you them extra fancy meals at Andy's own personal expense. All we need around here is a charge account down at the lunchroom and have food brought in. And then Ulti comes in with a little stray dog he found. The dog looks hungry, so Andy looks for some food, and he looks in the lunch I brought. And I say, now wait a minute, that's my lunch. 2 sandwiches for lunchtime, and 1 for later in the day when I get my sinking spell. Those are on salt rising bread, you know. But Andy gives the dog one of my sandwiches anyway. And then he gives the dog a Nister cookie dar. And I say, well, come on now. Don't give the Nister cookie dar. I'll want that later on. A slender, high-spirited person like me needs a sugar tick-me-up later in the day. And then when the dog finishes eating, I say, now can we get him outside? And Ulti says, don't you like dogs, Darnie? And I say, I love dogs, but not when we're expecting an investigator from the state capitol.
And then Opie wants to take the dog home and keep him, and Andy reluctantly says yes. And then later, while you and Andy are out walking, Opie runs up and says, Pa, the dog ran away. And his dad says, oh, don't worry about it. He probably went back to his own home. But then you all go in the courthouse and you see the original dog plus 3 others.
And I say, Andy, this is serious. Now that state inspector's going to come here, and he's going to think we want extra funds just to keep dogs. Now we got to get him out of here. And I try to get Otis to take the dogs home with him, and at first he says no, and then Andy convinces him to.
And then this time Otis comes back a couple hours later and says all those dogs ran away. But then the original dog and then 10 others come in.
And then Otis leaves, and Andy and Otis go to get a dog adopt, and Andy says they'll figure out later what to do with the dogs when they come back. But I have an idea of my own. I put them all in the squad car, and then I come back, and Andy and Ulti are already there, and they ask where the dogs are, and I tell them, well, I said to myself, if I was a dog, where would I want to go? Out in the wide open spaces. So I drove out in the country for a few miles. I found a nice big open field where they could run and play, and I just left them there. And then it starts to thunder and lightning, and Ulti says he's worried about them dogs in the storm, and I say at first not to worry, and then the storm gets worse. So after a while I say to Andy, well, are you just going to sit there, or are you coming with me to get them dogs? Are you coming with me?
So you bring them all back, and then you hear that the state inspector's in town, and he's going to be there in a couple minutes. And you tell Opie to take the dogs out back for while he's here looking at the place. And the guy comes in. He's not very friendly. He walks around and he says, it doesn't look like you all need any extra funds.
But then the dogs all get back in, and they knock the inspector down. And he turns out to be a dog lover, so that puts him in a better mood. And he approves our whole request for extra funds. And then we find homes for all of the dogs, which was a lot of work.
But then the owner of all the dogs comes in, Mr. Clint Biggers, and he says he wants his dogs back, so you all have to go get them back and give them to him. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week for episode 31.